Good evening, and welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View this evening. I was going to start this video one way, but Darren O'Dea, Darren O'Dea has dropped an absolute bombshell of a video, and I'm going to listen into bits of it, and I'm going to let you listen in, and then we're going to get a reaction to it, because some of the things that Darren O'Dea has come out and said tonight, I'm going to listen into with regards to Celtic. It just makes everything just make so much sense. And I've been jumping back and forward through the interview over the last hour. It's a 2-hour interview, so it's absolutely crazy. I'm going to let you listen to this bit about the mess at Celtic right now. Let me just make sure I've got the volume for this up here.
Rodgers as well. You left Celtic to go to Swansea. Brendan Rodgers was still the manager. Can you believe the amount of change that's happened since then, mate?
No, unbelievable.
Do you think he seemed quite settled when you were there, Dennis?
No,
No.
I think, and I genuinely don't know if this is factual, but certainly my understanding was he probably would have left at the end of the season.
I think that we could know. I mean, I said that. I thought that Brendan Rodgers would hang on to the end of the season. Darren O'Dea thought he would hang on to the end of the season, but he didn't.
That would have been the end of his contract, obviously, with the way he previously left the club. I think he certainly wanted to honour his contract. But I think a lot has obviously happened, and it's culminated in Dermot Desmond obviously having enough. I don't know if Brendan went in and offered his resignation. No one has a kind of an idea what exactly happened, because he didn't get sacked, he left. But then there's a wipeout. Obviously John Kennedy left, Paul Tisdale's eventually left after Wilfred Nancy. So yeah, the amount of change is just incredible.
So this is a former Celtic employee spilling the beans on who really runs Celtic Football Club. Dermot Desmond. Sack the board is finished. Sack the board will not work. Dermot Desmond is the issue at Celtic. Dermot Desmond has the final say on everything. And Darren O'Dea has just about said, you just heard him. Nobody knows really what went on apart from Dermot and Brendan. Dermot Desmond put out a statement which annihilated Brendan, and Brendan hasn't responded. Why?
Were you surprised when Nancy got the job?
No, not really. I didn't know him, but no, I thought that is the mould that Celtic will go down. Will be off. This is the way football works these days. There'll be data metrics put in. They'll have managers that'll filter into this. You could see how a manager of his ilk would fit Celtic in terms of maybe dominating the ball, but people talk about the level. I think players are getting bought from Scandinavia all the time. No one would bat an eyelid if we got a manager from Norway or Denmark.
That's interesting. I did say at the time that you could understand why Wilfred Nancy got the job due to stats, and it's more than obvious now that Dermot Desmond and the power, the puppets, I'm just going to call them puppets from now on, Nicholson, Chris Mackay, they're all just puppets that feed information to Dermot Desmond, and he makes the decision from the information.
So no, I wasn't surprised when he came in, but his first few interviews, I thought, yeah, you're not reading the room here. And I felt sorry for him in that, because he was coming into an absolute mess, and he needed real strong kind of.
A mess in what way, Daz, have you said? Because Martin was obviously winning games, wasn't he?
That was a good bit. That was a good question. Martin O'Neill had been winning games. Why was there a mess at Celtic? This is an ex-employee of Celtic who had been at the club for several years, who knew exactly what was going on in the background. but he said even after Martin O'Neill came in and steadied the ship, that it was still a mess in the background before Wilfred Nancy took over.
Yes, but I'm going to make a comment. I probably shouldn't keep this to myself. John Kennedy leaving Celtic is bigger than Brendan Rodgers leaving Celtic in terms of impact.
Wow! Right, what do you think of that comment? What do you think of that comment that John Kennedy leaving Celtic was bigger, according to Darren O'Dea, was bigger than Brendan Rodgers leaving Celtic? Now, considering that John Kennedy had worked under Brendan Rodgers before, he'd worked under Ange Postecoglou, he worked under Neil Lennon. It's amazing that, you know, he was classed as the most experienced coach out with the manager, but Darren O'Dea says that was the biggest thing to have happened at Celtic this year. It kind of throws the door open to why did he get. Nobody knows why and what happened. It is unbelievable.
Wow. Why?
Because he's been there for, well, 27 years or whatever, but in the first team, maybe 8 years, that staff there runs to his tune. He runs that staff. Neil Lennon kind of put a tag over him, which I always thought was great. He was chief of staff. So he runs the day-to-day, and the manager is kind of, he's obviously completely loyal into the manager, does it the way the manager wants, but he runs the staff, and the staff won't have liked seeing that. That's my opinion on it anyway. So I think Wilfred Nancy coming in, you weren't just manager for manager, you're replacing staff and everything, having to change training, and then he didn't win games.
Do you think if Nancy had kept Kennedy, it'd be a bit different?
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
And the players had a really good rapport with John Kennedy.
Yeah.
He had a badge saying
true.
chief, didn't he?
What's that?
Badge.
That is wow. No, we've never thought about that. We've never discussed it. We've never thought had John Kennedy still been at Celtic, Darren O'Dea thinks that Wilfred Nancy would have got on a lot better. That is an interesting one. It does go on in the interview, like I said, it does go on for a while. And I want to get to an interesting bit because he gets asked about, and it's something that we've spoken about on this channel a lot, and it's Celtic producing younger players. And he was asked the question, why aren't Celtic producing younger players? Because the way that Celtic used to produce younger players. Now this opens up a can of worms. This one by Darren O'Dea.
Brilliant.
How do you think, like, maybe when you come from Celtic sort of produce more players, why do you think that's maybe Stoke now, knowing more players are coming through?
I don't know. I'll tell you, going back, and Celtic board probably won't be happy with me saying this because I've been saying it, blue in the face saying it.
That's the second time he said that. The Celtic board won't be happy with me saying this. It's the second time in this interview that he said that.
There was a period when I went in and how more players didn't make debuts and kick on is beyond me. And what happens then is it just becomes a cycle. So you have trying to retain players becomes a lot more difficult because ultimately you're still selling Callum McGregor, Kieran Tierney, James Forrest. They need to see it more.
Who should have made their debuts this?
We had a squad. Matthew Anderson, he's over in Belgium. You'll see him, he'll come. Boston Lowell. Boston maybe made his debut. Boston's now playing Stoke. You could see him go for double figures next year. Dane Murray.
Boston Lowell for going for over 10 million and Celtic let him go.
Still there. Ben McPherson had back-to-back injuries. There are ACL injuries at Partick Thistle. Ben Doak was in that team. Daniel Kelly was in that team. Rocco Vata was in that team. Like, my thing was, when I was their age, I wasn't at their level at their age yet. I got opportunity and then took it and played 70 games.
So why is that?
That's massive. That is unbelievable. Darren O'Dea has said that the younger players that he had as pathway manager at the time, as under 18s and B team coach, under 20s and B team coach, that he wasn't at the level. Now, we've all said, a lot of people have said it on this channel, where are these players now? I trust Darren O'Dea more than any comments on social media. Darren O'Dea says that they should have been given their chance. He was given a chance and he didn't have the talent that some of the players that have left Celtic had at the same age. Yet he went on to have 70 games for Celtic. Celtic are shooting themselves in the foot, says Darren O'Dea.
Why is that a board thing? Why is that not a manager thing?
No, yeah, it's all in the manager, yeah. It's all in the manager. But I think Celtic, because there's so much pressure.
So much pressure on the manager, on what Darren O'Dea tell us. This is unbelievable.
Now, that's it. And because of this new thing of like, you have to win the treble, it's like there needs to be a club ethos to say, no, this is what needs to be done. This is part of a job of a manager. So like I wanted things in where there was 3 training slots. I'm never going to tell a manager he has to play a team. No one's going to do that. But 3 training slots. There's 25 players training every day as academy players. And then they can change that round. So, but you're getting academy players drip feeding into training. If you can't get them training, you have no chance. So,
And that's the way it used to always be, didn't it?
yeah, but Celtic's recruitment strategy for years was to sign kind of younger players, but by definition sign a lot. And maybe, let's say, sign 8, 2 are brilliant, 2 are okay, and 4 don't do well. See the 4 that don't go, they don't get into the side. They keep training with the first team, but that blocks the gap. Yeah. So nearly my job ended up at the end was get rid of these lads out and loan, get the money back for them, and then create a path into the first team for the young ones.
Fascinating.
Incredible, mate.
Unbelievable. It astounds me. I mean, I thought that Darren O'Dea was gobbing off a bit much about Celtic in the last couple of weeks, and at this interview, I mean, he's sitting with ex-players and stuff, and they're just cutting the mustard, and he's telling it as it is. There's one thing for sure, Darren O'Dea will never get another job inside Celtic with the current board and Dermot Desmond. I think if Dermot Desmond or his son gets anywhere near this, anywhere near it, it's unbelievable. Anyway, that is the big news tonight, that Darren O'Dea's basically he's chucked off the hand grenade and he's just went boom right into Celtic Park. He's dropped a love bomb. But there you have it, from the horse's mouth, as they say. Everything that is wrong at Celtic. We all knew that there was something wrong at Celtic. We all knew the strategy was wrong. And Darren O'Dea has come out and said it goes right up to the hierarchy. Goes right to the hierarchy of the club, and we've given no pathway. So we don't need to speculate anymore about why players didn't get a pathway into the club. That pressure comes from the fans to win trebles, which isn't easy. Trebles never used to be a thing until Brendan Rodgers came in. Trebles don't come from the manager. That comes from the pressure of the board, and they've the whole Peter Lawwell scenario of Peter Lawwell wanting complete dominance in Scottish football. That's where the treble thing really cuts in from. But anyway, we move on from that, because it is absolute bonkers that so many players have been better than Darren O'Dea was at a similar age and just not given the chance at all. I'll just take it's going to be a quiet night tonight because there is European football on. I am going to jump into the Europa League website because there's some interesting information on the Europa, and Arne Engels, what to look out for on the playoffs. And there's an interesting stat for the playoffs. about Celtic. Standout fixture. Celtic versus Stuttgart is the standout fixture, according to UEFA. Celtic caretaker boss Martin O'Neill was in charge the last time the boys took on Stuttgart, winning 5-4 on aggregate in the fourth round in the 2002-2003 UEFA Cup. That tie hinged on a 3-2 second leg defeat in Germany, which seen on O'Neill's side cling on grimly to secure maximum value of the 3-1 first leg success. The last 20 minutes seemed like an eternity, as the manager said at the time. With the 73-year-old thriving during his two unexpected returns to the Celtic bench this season, he may be keen to savour every second of this encounter, because it doesn't look good for Celtic. The stat: 9 home meetings with Bundesliga sides since Stuttgart's last visit in the 2002-2003 run to Seville. Celtic's record: 2 wins, 1 draw, 6 losses. Puts everything into perspective for Thursday evening. And after that killer of an interview, Celtic websites tomorrow will be full of Darren O'Dea quotes from that interview. They'll be completely full of the mess that Celtic Football Club are in. And I'm kind of glad that Darren O'Dea's done that. Do you know, I think he's been doing commentary, and I'm thinking there's something not right with Darren O'Dea. Do you know, he's not. He's pissed off with Celtic for some reason, and he's just sat in that interview and he's just went, boom, I'm just fucking telling everyone, fuck it, don't care. I'm not working at the club now. I'm never going to go back to the club to work. I'm just going to spill the beans, as they say. I wonder what effect that will have on the media conference when it happens tomorrow. It's a fine thing that they dropped that interview today, the day before Martin O'Neill takes to the press conference. But anyway, I'm just catching up with some of these comments. Jasper, I don't know if you listen to what he says. I'm all for developing youth players through the academy, but whatever, we should have the strongest, best squad in Scotland by a mile, and we clearly don't. Last thing you need is inexperience. But Darren O'Dea says that the squad is taken up. If you listen to what he says Celtic will buy in 8 players, say, at a young age, 19, 20, 21, 22. They'll buy in a block of players. And if they're not good enough, they're still training with the first team. The issue that Darren O'Dea had with his time at Celtic is he then had to try and loan these players out to try and get the younger boys into training with the first team. If the youth don't have the opportunity to train with the first team, how on earth are they meant to stay at Celtic? Anyway, that's the massive one. Someone had to say something. This cloud of secrecy only protects one group, the board. The board. It doesn't protect the board at all, mate. Do you know what it does? Is it highlights even more that the board are just puppets. They don't run the show at all. Everything goes through Dermot. If you needed any clarity whatsoever that Michael Nicholson has no power at Celtic, really. Chris Mackay has no power at Celtic, really. The fact that we've got to email Dermot Desmond to spend X amount in the transfer window tells you. It shows you Darren O'Dea saying nobody inside Celtic knows what happened between Dermot Desmond and Brendan Rodgers. All they know is that Brendan Rodgers left. He wasn't sacked. He left. They don't know if he handed in his resignation. There's a big cloud of secrecy around. And then you get Dermot Desmond putting out that ridiculous statement slating Brendan Rodgers. And Brendan Rodgers said nothing. Brendan Rodgers isn't a silly man. He would not have walked away from Celtic without a generous payoff to the end of his contract. And I bet that was done through another company outside Celtic. Dermot Desmond's own little backhander to him. Get out of the club, you're fucking ruining it. But anyway, let's move on from that. And Somerset Baz, question for the game en route to the final. What did every team up to the semis have in common? Back in 2003? Can't remember, mate. Can't remember. We need to stop signing project players instead of investor or you squad. Yep, we do that. We've known for ages now the board are puppets. The CEO is meant to be the top man in any line of business, not a shareholder. Yep. David Grant. We're very, very lucky to have Martin O'Neill at Celtic. Imagine if we had someone else in charge at the present. The way the boards have done their deals. They got rid of him for Nancy. We were lucky that Martin came back. But but Darren O'Day said, I mean, he did say he understands why Wilfred Nancy got the job. And we're not picking managers, we're letting data. And that's a sad indictment of where Celtic are and where football is. Because we're looking at data to pick a manager. It's data-driven decisions, and rather than good old, will this guy speaking to him and knowing his ethos about football and getting to know the guy. It's a case of looking at his stats and going, yeah, well, he looks as if he could do a good job. Hi, it's Dermot. Do you want the job? Yeah. What I've looked into you. I've looked at a bunch of fucking stats on a piece of paper. It's crazy, isn't it? It's absolute bonkers. We need to keep Araujo and Sarachi. Right, let's get on to the main point of the video this evening. Let's make up the comments. Right, there are several players at Celtic whom are they don't have a contract. The easiest way to put it, come the end of the season, and there's certain players that will need to have conversations. There were players that were brought in with the option to have another year. One of them being Kelechi Iheanacho. Now, there's been a few media places saying that Kelechi Iheanacho is to have talks with Celtic at the end of the season. Is it really the way that we're going with the club? We've got Kelechi Iheanacho. Here's where we stand. We've got Kelechi Iheanacho, players that are going to make a difference this season, and players that should potentially. A next manager, you would like to think that the next manager of Celtic is watching every game right now, and there's the reality is he probably isn't, but Kelechi Iheanacho, do you keep him? Do you ditch him? Do you offer him the chance of another year at Celtic? He's 29-year-old. Bosun Lawwell, the exact type of midfielder we need, right? Yeah, exactly. And he was chased out of Celtic. I still find it strange that we got rid of him. But Kelechi Iheanacho, tell me in the comments, and I'll run through these comments quickly. Kelechi Iheanacho, do we speak to him? Does he take a wage cut? Because if you're Celtic, you're not paying Kelechi Iheanacho 30 grand a week to remain at Celtic next year. He's took 30 grand a week out of Celtic this year, and he's hardly played a game. So do you even entertain Kelechi Iheanacho, or do you just get rid of him and let the new manager bring in a player that he wants? Because we're imposing we would be imposing Kelechi Iheanacho on the next manager. Do you know, if you want a manager to come in, and as Dan O'D says, do you know, we need a manager that takes the whole football club forward. We need a manager that understands the B team, that understands the under-20s, and understands that you need to have a process of getting these players through into it. Kelechi Iheanacho, yay or nay? Punt Kelechi. In my opinion, O'Neill could be staying on his manager. Jim McCarthy, he's not staying on his manager. Jesus God. Plenty of guys who play in the field in life and get them in midfield. Boom, boom. Get rid of him. The next manager won't even know he's the next manager. Yep. I hope the rest of Kelechi, injury, he's done. Iheanacho end his career injury prone, talented, but no doubt. Motherwell are the best football playing team in the league. Get their manager. It's kind of off topic. Get Larsson in now. Jesus. Right up, next up is the man that's just came into Celtic and has improved that midfield. Oxlade-Chamberlain. Now, he's got a contract to the end of the season. Do you keep Oxlade-Chamberlain next season? He has the option to have talks with Celtic. He does have that sort of, you know, if you do good enough this year, we'll give you another year. Do you keep Oxlade-Chamberlain? I'm going to say yes all day long to that. And then the next one up that I thought about was the best player. Is he the best player at Celtic right now? Julian Araujo. He had a really poor first half, but Julian Araujo, along with Tenecti, are probably the bright sparks of Celtic at the moment. Players that get the club. Is it time to get rid of the sort of old and get out the players that have been here for a few years and bring in the Tenectis, bring in the Julian Araujo's, you know? And then you've even got Junior Adamu, who's only on loan until the summer. Do you keep Junior Adamu also? Will he have done enough between now and the end of the summer to show that he's worth £3 million punt or whatever it is? Therefore, keep the Ox, says Pablo and a few others. The Ox hasn't proven enough yet. He saved our asses, but we need to see him playing at least 45 minutes consistently. We should sign Araujo. Can see us being outpriced due to his performances for us. It's far too soon to sell the Ox. He's a hero for that late goal, but so was Tony Watt when he scored against a Barca. So very true. Right, the last two that we need to talk about, and I think that we all know the answer to that one, is Rio Hatate and Dyson Maida. I think they'll be gone in the summer anyway. But anyway, it is quite a quiet night tonight due to the fact there is European football on, which is good. It means that I don't have to hang about far too long because everyone wants to go and watch some Champions League football, which means I might do a watch along on the other channel tomorrow night at 8 o'clock with one of the Champions League games that is on. So I might do the live on this channel just a little bit earlier. On that note, I shall see you first thing in the morning. Have a fantastic evening, Celtic fans, wherever you are all around the world.